Hello, everyone. Today, we're both very excited to give you our review of Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, one of the classic stories of not only modern horror literature, but literature of the fantastic in Western culture. So, as you might expect, del Toro brings his own unique spin to the source material. We want to talk about del Toro's artistry. We especially want to emphasize the unique look that he brings to his films, which is due in part to the fact that he often works with consistent cinematographers. So Dan Lausens is shooting this film along with Del Toro. Lausens is one of Del Toro's two go-to cinematographers, the other one being Guillermo Navarro. The uniquely lush look of a Del Toro film, I think, is due to the fact that he always works with a trusty cinematographer. So we'll talk about the look of the film, the visuals. We'll talk about the special effects, especially the makeup and Del Toro's reinterpretation, or I should say his interpretation of the creature. So to begin with, I'll just provide a brief recap. Victor Frankenstein, the title character, is a driven mad scientist character who comes from a background of privilege, but also a background of grief because his mother died of scarlet fever. In part because of that, he becomes obsessed with finding a cure for death, arriving at some process of reviving dead material, bringing matter back to life. He builds and revives the famous creature, and then they become, of course, antithetical foes, joined at the hip, metaphorically speaking, never free of each other.
What do you think of the cast? I thought Oscar Isaac, to begin with, really was great at conveying Victor's monomania, his obsession.
Absolutely. I think that Oscar Isaac is great. One of the things you expect from a Del Toro cast is that they'll be really good. Del Toro is great with actors. Actors love working for him. He writes great scripts, great characters. And this cast is an amazing cast. Like in any other film, this would still be an amazing cast. Oscar Isaac is great as Frankenstein. He brings that brooding Gothic kind of sense of obsession, that monomania, as you call it. His look is fantastic. I mean, he looks like a prototypical kind of like Byronic romantic.
In
Very
fact, oh,
dark. Go
Byronic,
ahead.
speaking of, oh, sorry to interrupt you, but that you may heard this yourself, but like Del Toro modeled him on Lord Byron, one of the Romantic poets, and Byron had like a limp, like a game leg,
Mm,
and at one point in the film, Frankenstein is injured and has to have like a walking stick with him. So
mm.
he's um, Del Toro is very much channeling Lord Byron, in his character, and so that's interesting too for his interpretation of his character as a scientist, both a scientist and an artist figure. So when he's creating life, it's very much an artistic process as well. So
Absolutely. The interplay of the creative and the scientific, of course, is one of the hallmarks of the novel, and you see that very much in the movie as well.
oh yeah,
And Isaac, his look and his performance, it's a great balance of forces. On the one hand, he's really good looking, he's seductive, he's got that dark romantic aura, but then he's also dark and grotesque and dangerous. He's shot through with really unsavory elements. He's arrogant.
yeah,
He's solipsistic.
abusive.
He abusive. He treats people as objects. He manipulates. He lies. So he's really very much a he's a would-be dark lover, right? I'm spoiling it a little bit to call him a would-be dark lover, but not too much. Go see the film. One thing I will say is that Del Toro has significantly changed the character relationships for this storyline. In addition to Frankenstein, you have his brother William, who, I mean, his presence in the movie is significantly different than it is in the book. The presence of Elizabeth, who is Frankenstein's fiance in most films,
Well, in the
in the
book,
book and in
in
the
the book,
adaptations.
yeah, Elizabeth is
Yeah,
Frankenstein's, but here
yeah. So
she's
that
yeah.
their relationship has been significantly changed. You have the presence of Frankenstein's father, played by Charles Dance. One of the things that we do have Del Toro really bringing to the film that is different and more psychological and realistic is this sense of there's a cycle of abuse and toxic behavior that's carried down from father to son, carried down from generation to generation. And so one of the storylines in this film is us witnessing whether this cycle will continue or whether it'll be broken, whether the creature, for instance, will make different choices and not make the same mistakes that his quote unquote father made, um,
Yeah.
and that Frankenstein made in the wake of his father.
Yeah.
So other than Frankenstein, other than Isaac, I should say, we have Jacob Elordi, right?
Yeah.
Playing the creature. And guys, I'm going to say something sacrilegious. This is my favorite rendition of Frankenstein's monster. Jacob Elordi's rendition, the look of this creature, the creature's dialogue, the creature's presence. This is my absolute favorite version of this character.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
mean, I can't say enough about just how
Yeah.
seductive and alluring and interesting Elordi's creature is, and what a an enticingly dark and pitiable figure he becomes in Del Toro's hands.
Yeah.
The creature is almost always portrayed as sympathetic in some way, but this is the most, and for my money, this is the most sympathetic the creature has ever been in
Yeah.
any adaptation.
Well,
Um,
one thing in this version of the monster that we get that we really haven't seen before in other versions, from the 1930s film to more modern reboots. The monster is portrayed sympathetically and humanized to some degree. Here, Del Toro talked about how he wanted the creature to have like a alabaster-esque look to it, look like a work of art. So it's a nice balance of elements that I think is really representative of Shelley's original novel, because the creature is very much supposed to be, be like a new human being, viewed as a monster by others, but also this kind of work of art that's created.
Absolutely. And I think that this what one of the things that feels different about Del Toro's adaptation in that respect is the fact that, the creature is a divided figure in almost every adaptation, and the creature is a divided figure in the original novel as well. On the one hand, we do have this deeply sympathetic vision of the creature as this spurned, abandoned child left alone in a brutal world who's done nothing wrong and is treated with hatred and contempt and disgust for no real good reason, and then becomes this kind of philosopher poet figure, definitely in keeping with the romantic personality that became such a focal point for the poetry and the culture, the art of that time. But on the other hand, both through Frankenstein's narration and also through the other authorial choices that Shelley makes, the figure is a focal point of abjection. It's this abomination, this undead thing, this grotesque assemblage of body parts and refuse that, it's come from the dissection table and other kind of like charnel house sources.
Yeah.
And so this thing's very existence is shot through with this kind of disgusting, forbidden, taboo transgression. It is inherently a figure of transgression because, of course, it was created through a fundamental transgression, the transgression of not to play God, not to try and create life in ways beyond the purview of the the divine force, however you style it.
Yeah.
Um, And that's much less evident in Del Toro's creature. I will say this: I don't think that the creature is in any way, shape, or form a source of disgust or abjection in Del Toro's version. That ambiguity has been removed and placed on other elements of the film.
Mm.
The abjection for me takes place in the process of creating the creature. The
Mm.
fact that at one point, I remember just being so struck by this. One of the things you don't tend to get in these films is you don't really see the waste, the pile up of waste that occurs as Frankenstein is experimenting and trying to build and harvest parts and one of the things you see is just what a grotesque slaughterhouse, a charnel floor his laboratory becomes as he's engaged in this forbidden process of building this creature and getting it to the point where he can reanimate it.
Mm.
It's absolutely disgusting.
Mm.
And you really kind of get a vivid, visceral sense of what a transgression this is. Not a transgression against God, for instance, or at least not only, but a transgression against humanity, treating parts in this way, right? Robbing these human remains of their dignity by treating them as spare parts in this monomaniacal process.
Yeah.
And then just like the pile up of blood and waste and
Yeah.
pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like that's something that really sticks out to me about this film is that
Yeah.
like Del Toro shows you the actual cost, the actual
Yeah.
pileup, the grotesque underpinnings of these highfalutin scientific progress, right? But whatever progress we made, what was the cost? And Del Toro kind of shows you that.
You make a good point. Yeah. And that's where another character comes into play that we haven't mentioned. Christoph
Mm.
Waltz's Heinrich Harlander, who is this his wealthy benefactor. He's this kind of corrupt arms manufacturer dealer who
Correct me if I'm wrong, Jesse. This is Del Toro's unique contribution, right? This character is not in any
no,
other adaptation.
completely
Yeah.
new character, but gives Victor a lab, gives him
Mm.
money and funds. And he's one of the most chilling characters in the entire movie. He just views this as a business opportunity, a business venture, you know?
Yeah, and well, we learn that there's something much more personal about it
Well,
eventually,
yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah. There's major spoiler there. That he
yeah,
has an underlying agenda there.
he's so good at playing these kinds of falsely upbeat, cheerful characters that tend to have these very distinct dark sides. But he's so good at it. It's like I don't know if it's something we should really regret. But yes, he's probably the rankest villain in the film. I mean, Victor Frankenstein is spends most of this film as a rank villain, I would say. Most of the film. I'll spoil it a little bit by saying that.
Yeah.
But Highlander is just a villain.
Yeah.
He is Del Toro's commentary on selfish, unrestrained capitalism run completely amok,
Yeah.
using the cadavers of the Crimean War as raw material for his capitalistically driven mission to make money and then eventually also to be a part of this scientific process of creating a form of undead life that can cheat death.
Yeah, I mean, as unscrupulous and kind of horrible as Victor gets in the movie, he does have some ethical hesitations and reluctance, but like Heinrich's
Mm.
character just eggs him on and encourages him to remove all those moral scruples, and just
Yeah, well, you talk about the way that like Victor Frankenstein treats people as objects. That's attenuated a little bit by the fact that yes, he does have these moments of humanity and doubt, right? Um, it's hard to like this character. It's hard to like Frankenstein, but we do recognize that there is something in him that pushes back against this arrogant manipulation. Um, there's nothing in that in Harlander. He is he is a rank villain through and through. He is just a one-dimensional capitalist who's there to uh, place a market value on human suffering,
yeah,
impose a market logic on human suffering. That is what he does.
yeah,
And this again, this is unique to Del Toro. There is a commentary here that feels more contemporary and more topical that I think is again uniquely Del Toro.
yeah,
Other than Waltz, who is always fantastic and he's really good, you love to hate him in this. We have to talk about Mia Goth as Elizabeth. Again, usually in the source material and in the adaptations, Frankenstein's fiance. It's really striking. The Elizabeth character in this film is characterized by her empathy and her care for living things and her respect for, the natural processes of life. So she's really interested in insects. She's interested in this kind of smaller scale natural processes of natural biological processes of nature, and she views them as divinely inspired. She often acts as the moral center of the film.
yeah,
Other than the creature himself, I will say that I think the creature is also a moral center in the film, which is really
yeah,
interesting. Let's talk about why a lot of people go to see this film or tune into this film, and that is because it is a Del Toro film, and
sure.
we expect certain things from Del Toro, and he delivers them. So, Jesse, what did you think about uh, the Del Toro elements of this
Mm.
film? I'm thinking specifically this is why I mentioned the cinematographer. I'm thinking specifically of the fact that his films always look visually so uniquely lush and sensuous and have such a sense of depth and color to them. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
what's your take on that?
Well, yeah. He brings his signature aesthetic to this movie. He really works in that kind of heightened Gothic mode. Everything's overwrought, Baroque. There's this phantasmagoric quality to his filmmaking style, and you see it definitely in Frankenstein, his version of Frankenstein here. Yeah, it's a beautiful film to look at, and I was swept up in just the immersiveness of the world itself. Even apart from the characters, is very immersive. But how'd you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a Del Toro film. You have the lush palette of colors. You have the sense of space. The fact that he's telling these stories that have this kind of epic quality to them, but also this sense of intimacy. So these,
Mm,
very detailed sets that are vividly represented through the cinematography. And also the fact that because Del Toro is one of our modern auteurs, a director who really does bring a unique vision and sense of artistry to every one of his films. A great part of the pleasure of this film is recognizing that artistry and recognizing the historical and aesthetic elements that he's bringing to bear on it. So watching this film, I'm thinking about the fact that Del Toro has such a wide-ranging uh, cinematic background in terms of the things that he likes to consume, the movies he likes to watch. So this is a film that's shot through with the lurid colors of giallo cinema, for instance, but also, the color palette reminds me very much of um, our directors like Douglas Sirk, Rainer Werner Fassbinder,
mm.
Pedro Almodovar. And I would be shocked if Del Toro isn't intentionally borrowing from those elements as well. I mean, with Fassbender and Almodovar, two queer directors, for instance, one of the things we can definitely point to in Del Toro's cinema is this recurring emphasis on non-normative characters, characters that come from non-normative backgrounds, don't have marginalized identities.
Yeah,
So it makes perfect sense that Del Toro would eventually choose to tell his version of Frankenstein.
mm,
Frankenstein's monster, probably the ultimate non-normative, marginalized character in horror literature. It's always going to be a monster movie or some take on genre with Del Toro, but he's always so driven to tell the stories of his individual characters and respect them and try to take them on their own terms, but then also represent the ways that they interact with each other and the way those interpersonal relationships and those conflicts shape the narrative, shape the story, shape the plot.
yeah,
Um, and he's just, I think one of the things that makes him unique as a director of these kinds of films is that you don't see a lot of directors of horror, sci-fi, and fantasy who necessarily have a lot of affection for their characters. They're much more interested in the ideas, they're interested in the horror, the fear, the speculative fiction, but they're not necessarily driven so much by affection for their characters. And Del Toro, you can tell, is somebody who really has a deep sense of empathy and humaneness. He has a great deal of care for his characters and really is there in large part to tell their stories.
yeah.
So we definitely get that here. And of course, that's already something that's it's inherent in the source material to a certain extent. But Del Toro definitely runs with that.
Yeah. And that goes back to the intimacy with which he treats such characters is very much again interwoven with the surroundings and the environments, and that's where
Mm.
the Gothic mode really comes out because a lot of these environments, particularly Frankenstein's laboratory, are externalizations of their psychological terrain.
This is a good opportunity to talk about the process of the experimentation, the representation of the arcane science that
Yeah.
um, Frankenstein uses to eventually arrive at his creation.
Digression
Uh,
though, I don't
yeah.
know if you got this from the his tower, but it was giving me serious Saruman vibes, you know?
Oh, yeah, yeah, of course.
Lord of
Yeah,
the
no,
Rings.
yeah, no, that's one of the things that I kept coming back to watching the film is that this feels it's a feeling. I don't know if I can defend that this film is actually generically a work of fantasy, right? It doesn't, it's still a work of science fiction and horror but it feels more like a work of fantasy in Del Toro's hands than I think it ever has, at least in the versions that I've seen,
Yeah,
and
dark.
I've seen a fair number of them.
Yeah, that's a good reading. Dark fantasy. There's definitely an element of beauty and wonder thrown in there, right?
Yeah, and it seems less interested in the speculative elements. It seems much less concerned with the elements that we would consider science fictiony, right? So it's not so much interested in speculating about the future, right? I mean, the thing about Frankenstein, of course, is that it's a period piece, right? We're looking back to a time when the modern sciences, as we know them, were coming into being. We're being shaped by these new discoveries and forces. And of course,
Yeah.
some of these discoveries had already happened centuries before. But anyway, it's we're looking back. And in fantasy, we tend to be looking back. In horror, we tend to be looking back. But we tend to be looking forward in science fiction. So the science fiction elements of Frankenstein are less evident in this one than I think they ever have been, at least again in the versions I've seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the Del Toro's take on the creation, the scientific process that Frankenstein is using is interesting because it borrows a great deal from previous adaptations. Mary Shelley's elemental process, the one that Victor Frankenstein uses, is really vague.
Oh yeah.
Shelley either didn't really care about fleshing it out or didn't quite know how to make it convincing, so left it intentionally mysterious. Um, I think that was one of the great authorial decisions in horror and science fiction literature because what it's resulted in is that everyone who adapts has such a liberal realm of possibility to bring all these elements into what it would actually look like to try and create life. And
Yeah.
of course, the enduring element that's actually also hinted at in the book is the element of electricity. So it is a galvanic process of some kind.
Yeah.
Um,
But you don't get the light.
However that
You
works.
don't get the lightning rod, of course, and that whole like
Right. Yeah.
operatic display that they introduced in the 1930s Frankenstein. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It's Del Toro. I will spoil this much. I will say that the process of creating the creature, the moment when the creature is actually created, it owes much more to previous adaptations than it does to the source material. As you might expect, the creation of the creature in the book kind of just happens.
It just
And
happened.
it's not this just this great big thing. There's not this description of this great big lab with all this apparatus
Yeah.
and the stormy sky and all that kind of like those classic Gothic elements. They aren't present at all. So Del Toro, but again, runs with them, and there is a scientific biological element to his galvanic process, his version of it, that I think is pretty interesting.
I mean, Del Toro introduces a lot of religious iconography, so the cathedral-like
Mm,
setting,
mm,
the galvanic process, the scientific process becomes a magical and in some ways spiritual process as well. So in the movie,
mm.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely, and this film also typical of Del Toro, and but also typical of the source material and how it's adapted is that this film is shot through with symbolic, metaphorical
oh yeah,
elements that are very layered. It's one of the reasons I might be tempted to call this film a work of dark fantasy rather than a work of horror science fiction, the way it usually is, the way it usually is that I think this is one of the most hopeful, definitely, I think the most hopeful adaptation of the story I've seen. I would even hesitate to call this film tragic in the way that the source material and most of the adaptations are. And spoiler alert, guys. I mean, I left this film feeling really good. Um,
well,
this Del Toro does not leave you in ruins over the prospect of the creature, the nature of life, the nature of the cosmos. I think that this is. One of the things that really typifies Del Toro is as dark as he gets, he's a fearless and stubborn optimist at heart. And I think
mhm,
that really comes out in the source material. It comes out in the storyline here, the story that he chooses to tell, that
mhm.
is different from the book, different from most of the adaptations.
Yeah, and it's beautifully realized in the movie. I think at times, minor criticism. I think that's again overstated a little too much, and it spells it out for you. Like, who's the real
Yes,
mon who
absolutely.
like who's the real monster here? It's
Yeah. No, no,
obviously it's yeah. So
that is one of the things I will totally agree with you there. I feel like there are moments where the script makes the mistake of telling us something that the film is already thoroughly showing us.
yeah.
And so it kind of feels like one of those moments in a Monty Python sketch where John Cleese is being this overbearing commentator where something happens and then it cuts to him and he's like,
Yeah. There's a bit of a
right? He's like, "Did you hear that?" You
there's
know? So
yeah,
there
there's a
there
bit of
are
that.
moments, yeah. There are
Yeah,
moments involved, especially involving the commentary on Frankenstein's character, right? On the Victor Frankenstein character.
sure.
There are
Yeah.
moments where it's like, yeah, I
So
got that. I didn't need that moment to tell me that. Like based on what's already happened,
yeah,
make that that I can make that conclusion for myself. Thank you.
yeah. I mean,
So
most
yeah, I
every
mean, yeah.
yeah. I mean, mostly for the most part, a lot of the elements here just came together and really worked for me. I
Mm,
think that was one thing, a little overstating the ideas sometimes in moments. And also, as much as I love the world building, and this is my issue with like CGI, sometimes the CGI environments took over that whole like set piece with the tower on fire and burning down. Leaned into a little bit too much of like a theme park ride at times. Yeah,
sure, sure, absolutely.
and that took me out of it.
I agree totally. On that note, I just want to say this is my gripe. What is what is the obsession with like showing us fake looking deer in the woods? Like I feel like I've seen so many films where we got like these really like ferociously fake looking deer that just like show up.
Yeah,
Like hey, here's some CGI deer. Thanks
yeah,
for that. They look fucking fake. I mean, pardon my French, but
yeah,
they're fake. They're creepy looking.
and
They
some
look like cartoons. It's like you put like a three-dimensional Disney remake of Bambi right in the middle of my Frankenstein film. Why did you do that?
some
I
questionable looking CGI wolves too. Yeah.
Yeah, that too. It's like the wolves are one thing. I feel like the wolves, the wolves really need to be in there, right? I mean, the wolves
Mm.
play a narrative role.
Yeah.
Like however you present them, they've got to be in there. But the deer, it's like, why do the deer have to be there? I mean, I guess they have this one deer has a moment with Frankenstein's monster, right? But it's like,
Mhm.
I don't know, man. I'm tired of the fake looking deer. There's something about fake deer in particular that just really rattles me. It's like, why am I watching this? This is so clearly fake.
You know
Can't you see
where
that this is just so fake?
you know where I think we last saw that was in 28 years later, right?
Yes, more
Yeah.
fake deer.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Why all the fake deer, guys? Get away from the deer, okay? Just get away from the deer. They're fake looking. They're weird.
Yeah. I
You
know
know?
they're small things, but if it's not working for you, it takes me out of the movie too, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So there are moments like that, and then of course the other CGI elements. Of course, I wasn't thrilled with those either. I'm very seldom thrilled with any kind of CGI. Jess, what do you think about the film? How
Um,
many stars do you give it?
oh yeah. I would give this one I think I would give it a solid 4 out of 5 stars. I mean, I
Mm,
think so much did land and to the performances. Yeah, Jacob Elordi's amazing rendition of the creature and the thematic richness, I mean, and
mm,
symbolism, so much texture and rich symbolism throughout the movie and in the environment. Cinematography was beautiful, great use of sound, production. Yeah, a lot of this
mm.
came together except for those a few kind of gripes about the CGI and so forth. So
Yeah.
4 out of 5 stars for me. Yeah.
Yeah, the elements that work in this film work so well that I'm going to give it 4.5 out of 5 stars.
Okay.
I think that half star speaks to that the handful of moments in the script that are overexplained, and then the spare, but for some reason, even though it's spare, the use of CGI still feels jarring and overbearing to me. So
Yeah.
that's the other gripe I have. Yeah, 4.5 stars because I think what works in this film works so well. I think for the most part, the script is really great.
Yeah.
Del Toro's reimagining of the source material is really interesting and stimulating.
Mhm.
The film is visually beautiful. Del Toro and his cinematographer are doing their typically great work. Actors are incredible. Everyone does really well in this film with the characters. One of my top three Del Toro films.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Pan's Labyrinth is number one for me. Shape of Water is number two, and then I think Frankenstein's right here, number three.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I know, guys, like anyone who's seen, Devil's Backbone, Kronos, those films, you know, those are amazing films too. So feel free to disagree. Like your top three obviously can be different than mine.
I'm surprised
But
Pacific Rim didn't make it.
yeah, too. Oh, you're kidding. Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
just again, it's too much CGI, and it's
Mm,
also a genre that I'm not like as big on. The whole like, I love
kaiju.
Godzilla. I love the gi- I yeah, I love the Japanese giant monster thing, but I don't love it as much as I love some of the other takes, and I
Yeah.
don't have an endless appetite for it. In fact, I really pretty much have to be in just the right mood
Mm,
to watch one of those films.
yeah.
Um,
Sure. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
that's just a taste thing. I mean, if Pacific Rim is anybody's favorite Del Toro film, I have zero problem with that. I
Mm-mm.
mean, I just think it's not as much to my taste as what he more often does,
Yeah.
which is the kind of like character driven, kind of like more practical effect storylines that he tends to like gravitate towards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although I
Well,
will say Blade 2 is one of the best sequels that's ever been made for an action film.
yeah.
Blade 2 is great.
Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah. Frankenstein, it was great. Yeah. Currently streaming on Netflix. Go check it out. Yeah, we
Well
recommend
worth
it.
your time. 2.5 films, 2.5 hours, and it feels too short for me, folks. Um,
Yeah, it's an
yeah,
impressive achievement and a very unique take on the story. So, yeah.
yeah. Check it out.
Check it out.
Well,
Anyway,
like and subscribe.
yes, please do. We'll be putting out some more reviews for you all soon and really appreciate the engagement. Thank you so much for watching.